Hello, have you looked at the world around you and picked a beautiful flower, or simply looked at stones and rocks that are around you and wondered about them, and maybe even things like how does our brain actually operate? Or maybe you like even makeup, what goes into making a perfume and things like that. And of course, more than anything else, we are always using our devices, our cell phones, and if not anything else, as you look around you, there are remotes, and everything that you do, I want you to pause and look at the world around you. Maybe you're fascinated by creepy crawling creatures. Not my thing. And sometimes you just see the most beautiful patterns around you, and you wonder about it, and you wonder about what makes it do what it does. Can I design this? And if you're anything like me, you might wonder, are there aliens out there in the universe? Okay, so I am Dr. Shirin Haque, and I am an astronomer by profession, and I spent a lot of my life looking up at the moon, and it was nothing fascinated me more than the moon as I looked up and saw how beautiful it was through a pair of binoculars. And growing up in Trinidad, I went to school just like you guys, and I said, I wanted to learn more about the stars, and I wanted to be able to work in where my passion was. And I was told, you can't study astronomy in Trinidad. And then I was told, even if you went abroad or you got a degree, you're not going to get a job here, because this place is my home. This is where I wanted to be. Folks, guess what? They were wrong on both counts. I was able to study astronomy, right, which is all about the stars and the beautiful things we see in the sky. And I was able to get a job. And right now, I am a senior lecturer in the Department of Physics at the University of the West Indies. And sometimes it's like, I get paid to do this because I'm able to work in where my passion is. So I'm here to tell you that you have a very special role to play in life, because myself as an astronomer, there are just about 13,000 astronomers in the entire world. That's really little bit when you compare it to the number of doctors and engineers and other professionals there may be, and lawyers and accountants. And of that 13,000 approximately, guess what? Guess how many of them are women? Right? I'm pausing for you to think about it. Less than 20% of the astronomers in the entire world are women. Now that is just an example as I am here speaking to you, but that kind of figure runs all across the different sciences. So in the world you find, right, and even in Trinidad, that there are fewer girls who are doing engineering disciplines, and even as they go higher up, you find that women are not represented fully. Okay, and there's a history behind this. There's a reason why we are where we are. One of my favorite mathematicians, how many of you here love mathematics? She was actually a mathematician, an astronomer, a philosopher, and she lived almost 1600 years ago. I don't know if you've heard about her. Her name is Hypatia, and she would teach people about the sciences. And do you know what happened to her? She was killed by an angry mob. And even in astronomy, it was just about 100 years ago when women could not even go to an observatory. An observatory is where there are telescopes to look through. They were always in the background. They were always, if they did make any headway into astronomy, it's because they were an astronomer's sister or their wife and things like that. So women have been in science and technology. I showed you technology, the two things are related, with their hands tied behind their backs. This is why The United Nations has actually declared an international day for women and girls in science, because there are not enough of us in there. And the power and the thought and the contribution that we can bring to it, that you can bring to it, could only enrich and help the world be a better place. So now you're thinking, well, what jobs can I do with a degree in science? Everybody tells me that with science, all you could do is be a teacher. So what can you do with a science degree? I hear it all the time, that all you can do with a science degree is be a teacher. I'm going to be a mythbuster. That's not true. Of course, if what you love is teaching, you can teach sciences in the school, but that's not all that you are limited to. You can become a researcher at a university in anything that you want to do. One of the big problems that the world is facing, and you know what it is, it's climate change, it is food security. And look at what has happened in the past year in 2020, where the world, all our lives have been so deeply affected by COVID. It is going to take science to solve these big problems, and we need you to be on the front lines. So even right here in Trinidad, you can work in labs, you can be a researcher at a university. If you're fascinated by geology and earthquakes, there's the seismic research unit. If the weather patterns fascinate you, and weather is so important with climate change, we need to understand we've been having more flooding and hurricanes in the Caribbean region, and all these problems need to be solved. So if you're interested in working in meteorology, all of these things are science. What about quality control? The quality of the foods, the chemicals that we are using. Or maybe it's the environment that fascinates you, right? You like picking flowers and you want to make sure that the animals are well taken care of. Well, there is Institute of Marine Affairs, there's the Environmental Management Agency. And while oil, which has fueled the world for a very, very long time, is actually on the decline. So the future is in renewable energy technologies. And guess what? You can study all of that here. And the next big thing that's happening is biomedical technology. So whether if you don't want to be a doctor but you want to work in the medical field, guess what? It takes that kind of science and technology, and all of this can be studied right here at the University of the West Indies. And you always have the option to start your own company. So how do you go about doing all this stuff? And I always want you to keep in mind, never forget, you want to be able to make a better tomatoes, right? And better peppers. And all of this is badly needed, right? To feed the world. And we need you to be in these areas. How do you go about this? Make sure that you get all your CSEC subjects. And then you move on to CAPE, right? So you want to have your 2 to 3 CAPE subjects in the science areas based on what it is you want to go into. And then you apply to the University of the West Indies, as well as the other organization, and they're called tertiary organizations, UTT, and even in the region around us. So whether it's the Faculty of Science and Technology, Engineering, Medicine, Food and Agriculture, we need all of you, because more than ever we need girls in the areas, because they are still heavily underrepresented. Girls and boys, if you're listening to this, it is absolutely wonderful to bring to you the message that science rocks. And me being in the field of astronomy and a big fan of Star Trek, I always like to end with live long and prosper, or in Klingon, Kapla, which means success to all.